Previously on the Rubin Report.
We will not have an election in 2028.
Just a televised...
Anne Frank in Chicago. Her name is Anita Franco.
Just are terrible people.
Never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
You will have a built-in defense system against the monster.
All right, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's time for another Friday roundtable extravaganza. And joining me is the host of the Karol Markowicz Show, Karol Markowicz, and host of the Dana Show, Dana Loesch. Ladies, it's nice to see you. How you doing?
How's it going?
Doing well, Dave.
I have to say before we start, we're just going to catch up on all the week's news. And of course, everything, as I said to you right before we started, everything, even the stories that aren't about Charlie still feel like they are about Charlie. But I guess maybe before we start, Dana, I saw you at the memorial on Sunday, and I was trying to figure out who I wanted on the show this week. And I just wanted people that are feeling what I'm feeling right now. And I almost think it's everybody, but you and I just had a moment, and I was like, I've got to get Dana on the show this week. And so since you haven't been on for a while, how you doing with this whole thing before we get into all the political part?
Yeah, that was heavy, wasn't it? I mean, it was heavy and it was a celebration. I know when I turned around and I saw you, there was that moment, like you kind of have a gut punch.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like the gang's here, you know, it was that kind of moment. Like most of the gang's all here for Charlie. And it was just sort of that, I think that shared moment. And both of us were trying to keep the tears from our eyes from spilling all over our faces because I don't know about you, but I'm a really ugly crier. It's just so gross. So I just try not to. So I probably gave you one of those, but I feel like it seems real now, obviously, whereas a week ago it didn't. It seems real, and I don't know if the anger has subsided. I think now the anger over what immediately happened has now transformed into, I can't believe that people are denying the contributing factors as to why this happened, this, horrific tragedy. And I think that's still kind of powering the rage, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. Karol, you mentioned right before we started something about how quickly the news cycle is moving with everything. And we all kind of know that nothing really has stickiness anymore. But the Charlie thing, to me, this feels like something that is actually going to maybe define a decade. Like there is something so profoundly important that is horrific that has happened here, but just important in our collective psyche. I don't want to let it go. I'm not going to let it go.
Right.
I don't, and I think most of us feel that way.
Yeah, in the days right afterwards, I was trying to hold on to Charlie as a person being gone, Charlie our friend, Charlie the guy that would, say a funny comment or something really meaningful when you saw him. And he was really good at that kind of thing. So I was very sad about the loss of Charlie the person, Charlie the friend. And now it's like Charlie the movement leader and Charlie the icon and all of that. It feels like we're moving into that stage where we really lost a giant and we lost a leader, and it's really hard to kind of recover from that. But about the news cycle moving quickly, I think we need to hold on as we remember Charlie and as we talk about him and as we move forward, that this violence that he died a part of this leftist violence. It's ongoing. We had the news story that I was referring to that disappeared was the shooting at the ICE facility in Texas. And I think stuff like that, it's getting scary and people need to be more aware of what's going on because the news media really doesn't want to talk about it. So we're going to have to keep talking about it ourselves.
Yeah, we have absolutely no choice. And we know they do a shell game with everything. So the second we start making some sense, it all gets mixed up again. So we will dive into the Dallas shooting and a bunch more. But let's start with something else altogether, although, again, I think we'll be able to connect everything we're doing to Charlie one way or another. It looks like James Comey might be indicted here. Listen to this from Fox. The Justice Department is seeking to indict former FBI Director James Comey for perjury as the deadline to bring charges looms, Fox News has learned. The probe into Comey centers on whether he lied to Congress during his September 30th, 2020 testimony about his handling of the investigation into Russia interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Under federal law, prosecutors have 5 years to bring a charge, with the 5-year mark occurring next Tuesday. So actually, Dana, before I have you chime in, here's the line that Comey said under oath that they seemingly think they can get him on.
Do you stand by your House testimony on March 20th that there was no surveillance of the Trump campaign that you're aware of?
Correct.
You would know about it if they were. Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Dana, it seems to me that I think so is the part that he will probably get off on, right? Like, he does not make a declarative statement implying that he did not know, and all evidence points out at this point that he did know that they were spying on the Trump campaign.
Yeah, he was savvy enough to qualify his response there, to sort of give him a little buffer. But I'm glad to see this happening. You know, I know some people were saying, oh, we have to have caution with this, caution. That caution went out the window when when you had the FBI, and everybody knows this whole sordid tale, when they were working with Fusion GPS and they were laundering this Oppo research through all of these different journalists. I mean, it's Kremlin Oppo. They're laundering it through. They bypassed the regular standard operating procedure to go and get this surveillance warrant to go after people who were with the campaign leading up to 2016, all because of ideological revenge. That's what it was all about. And there's no way that somebody like Comey didn't know this. I mean, the buck stops with James Comey. So, you know, he gave himself kind of an out there, and I'm inclined to agree with you on that's probably the way that will go, because that's sort of the way it always goes with these individuals. They're just slimy enough. They give themselves just enough breathing space to get out of these situations they've created for themselves. But we all know the truth on this. We all know. I mean, you had a FISA judge who left her position because of the fallout from this scandal. The Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC had to pay fines for FEC violations for not disclosing that they were the ones that were subsidizing all of the Oppo, all of Fusion GPS, and ultimately the information presented to the FISA judge and to get that surveillance warrant in the first place. So I don't believe him. I don't think the nation believes him. I'm happy to see it happen.
Right. So I'm completely with you. I don't believe him at all. Everything you laid out there, we know is factually true. But your broader point of like everyone kind of skates through, it reminds me of James Clapper testifying under oath. They asked him, you know, are we spying on the American people? And like an episode of Seinfeld, he scratches his head on the top of his head because he's lying. And Seinfeld says, you touch your head, the higher up is the bigger the lie. And he says, not wittingly. It's like, okay, Karol, so I guess the broader point here is this ultimately what the swamp is? When people talk about the swamp, is the swamp just that there's a system in place so people can do horrible things and pretty much always get away with it? Like, is that the swampiest thing in Swamp Town?
That is the swamp, right? I'm a poker player, so I can tell you that James Comey is a carnival of tells all the time. His Taylor Swift postings, all of that are telling a story about who this man is. I have to say, though, it's not that. I don't think that's the only lie that they're going to get him on. I mean, among other things, he testified that he never approved any leaks, and FBI Director at the time, Andrew McCabe, testified that Comey had told him that he had approved specifically leaks to the media. And I don't see how Comey gets away from that one either. Maybe that's considered a smaller lie, but it's still lying under oath.
Yeah. So here is Donald Trump on Comey's potential indictment. I thought this was a sort of perfect Trumpism.
I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI. And but I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Dana, I don't mean this to pander. I like Trump more every day. His ability to be honest and over the top and ridiculous and also say the truth and also be ahead of everything. I think years from now, he is going to be studied. Well, there's no doubt he's going to be studied, but like the guy has been directionally right about everything. And basically everyone he's told us is a bad person. Yeah, it kind of turned out to be right.
Yeah, they are a bad person. He's been right. I agree with you. I've known him for a long time before he even ran for office, and he was always very kind and very amiable. He's got a quality. It's an old school quality that you don't really see in a lot of these, younger politicians either, where he just cuts through the BS and just says it like it is. And you know that he's from a different generation, so he gets a pass for it, right? And I think that all works in his favor. He's always in the suit, even when he's driving a garbage truck, and it works in his favor. He's in a suit at McDonald's. That's just how he is. He's old school. So he's able to do some things as a result of the timing of his birth that a lot of other people wouldn't get a pass at. But he's just funny. I mean, he's funny about it. He's very disarming. And I think even for the people that really dislike him, if you actually watched him for any, length of time or gotten to know him, he's kind of a hard guy to dislike.
Yeah. And, since you were in the room, I'll ask you, and then Karol, I'm sure you were watching it, but during the memorial, when Trump went up there and he started talking about how Charlie did not hate his enemies, and he goes, but I hate my enemies. And then he goes, Charlie's probably mad at me looking down. I thought, man, he just captured what it's all about. He captured the best of this guy who was this deeply Christian spiritual person, right? Who did not want to judge, whose wife just forgave the murderer of her husband. And then Trump also said, but this is who I am, and I am the president of the United States, and did it with humor. And in some ways that was like I know that Erica's moment really was the best moment, but there was something about that moment where he got us to laugh and then also said something really, really deep within that. I just thought it was incredible.
Yeah, it was the perfect denouement to the whole thing, because when she came out and said what she said, when Charlie's widow said, I forgive him, I mean, everybody was shocked. And let's be honest, all of us go, would we do that?
Mm-hmm.
We all kind of took, everybody thought in that split second, oh, that's a big one. I mean, she's so mature and powerful in her faith. And when Trump said what he said, it was a perfect moment of levity. He wasn't making some sort of, he wasn't trying to make a pronouncement on biblical doctrine. But he was like, I hate my enemies. He was joking about it, but we all laughed. It was sort of like, here's your permission to laugh
right.
your backside off about this, because it was so funny. And we all identified with that too, right? We're all like, yeah, that is true. We do. So it was a perfect way to end it.
And he wasn't pandering. That's the thing, because nobody there, and I thought Junior did it quite well too, nobody there thinks they're the perfect Christians or are going to church every Sunday or anything else. So they were doing both. And I really thought it's a very delicate thing to balance. And I thought they did it really nicely. But speaking of pandering, let's jump to CNN for a second, because Jake Tapper, a man who has lied about everything basically for the last decade or so, well, listen to his thoughts on why Trump or the administration might be going after Comey.
And just to be clear here, President Trump wanting a prosecution of James Comey, does it matter what the charge is, or he just wants his political enemies charged with something?
Well, I think to prosecutors it matters. I mean, I don't think that the president is necessarily the closest observer of the criminal law, but I do think that for prosecutors, they realize there has to be a case that they can argue.
Karol, I've been trying to take a little bit of Charlie's spirit for the last 10 days in the show, so I'm not cursing as much and whatever, but I am so sick of this Jake Tapper-esque type thing that they do on these shows. You guys lied about everything. You guys had everything to do with Russia, and all of those things. And here you are portraying Trump as somehow the vindictive guy who just anything on Comey, would just anything do it. It's actually grotesque.
It really is. And actually Maggie Haberman is right in that clip that prosecutors wouldn't bring the case if they didn't think there was a case there. It doesn't matter what Trump thinks. The prosecutors have to say, there's no case here. Sorry, there's nothing we could do with this. So she's absolutely right there. But Tapper trying to put words in her mouth, trying to send the story in one direction when we all know it's going in another direction. It's very partisan. It's very blatant. And it's why nobody trusts these people at all. Nobody trusts the media, the mainstream media. And there's a reason for that, because we know that in 2 years, Tapper can write a book about what happened now and pretend he didn't know anything and tell a completely different story, just like he did during the Biden years.
Dana, I suspect since that insane town hall that you were part of on CNN after the Parkland shooting, I suspect nothing that happens on CNN surprises you at this point.
Nothing at all. And I think that even any bridge of reconciliation is advantageous for the people over there making it, or for the network as a whole. I mean, that's how suspicious I've been made of all of this stuff.
Let me show you one other thing, because here's a guy that actually does make sense. Stephen Miller talking about why the Department of Justice why they are going after him. We'll see what the fruits of that are.
To make on that subject or question, but I'm always happy to talk about
disgraced former FBI Director James Comey, who of course is corrupt, who of course has been engaged in vast amounts of illicit and unlawful conduct, who of course was at the center of the Russiagate attack and assault on American democracy. There are so many people, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Monaco, all across the government under previous administrations who have worked tirelessly to try to dismantle our democracy. And it has to lead somewhere to accountability.
Got to be a
Karol Miller did just lay out several of the names of, 51 former intelligence officials who were on the front page of the New York Post after they all claimed that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake Russian misinformation. So,
not the New York Post.
Well,
the New York Post is the good one. New York Times.
No. I remember that, but I remember the front page of the Post when they shamed them all on the front.
Yes,
the New York Times was
shaming, absolutely.
I should clarify. The New York Times was laundering the lies. The New York Post was mocking all of them. That's the one I'm going for.
Stephen Miller is holding some grudges, and I have to say I love it because memories are very short, and Stephen Miller is there saying, not my memory. I remember all these people. I remember exactly what they did. And the fact that he has been incredible in this administration. Stephen Miller has been definitely one of the best in this administration. I think he's been just so on point. And this is just another example of that. He's not letting things slide, which I think they did some of that in the first term. And this time, it's a whole new ballgame, and Stephen Miller is there to say, we remember all these people. We remember what they did. We remember how they came after the president, and we're not going to let that happen.
Well, speaking of people we remember but might like to forget, Hillary Clinton is back in the news. We'll talk about her in just a second, but first, PDS debt. The system isn't broken, it's rigged. And if you're buried in debt, that's exactly how they want it. Big banks profit when you're desperate. Creditors win when you lose, but you don't have to play their game. That's where PDS debt comes in. They've helped hundreds of thousands of people break free from credit cards, personal loans, collections, and medical bills. PDS goes beyond the numbers. They take time to understand your unique financial situation and build a personalized plan designed just for you. There's no minimum credit card score required. Their goal is simple: help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and put money back where it belongs, in your pocket. That's why PDS debt is rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau with thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. And here's the best part: you're just 60 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/Rubin. That's pdsdebt.com/Rubin. Take control of your money. Take control of your future. Do it today with PDS debt. Hillary, she's back, and she wants us to stop demonizing each other as she demonizes us. Look.
That raises a larger question. I mean, we have, and I include myself, we have got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right, coming from people who want to dominate. They want their point of view. Writing out slavery from history, that doesn't make it go away. We have got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating. We can have legitimate disagreements. Right? I mean, how do you provide quality, affordable health care to everybody? Let's figure that out. How do you deal with what's going to be job loss from AI? Let's get working on that. That's what we should be doing, but we should do it in the truth-based reality that we have to live in. Facts and evidence have to matter again. And then we can start having good debates.
Oh, I'm getting too old for this shit, guys. We have to stop demonizing each other. Then the two clowns at MSNBC are like, yeah, that's literally what they do for a living. And then she proceeds to demonize everyone on the right. Do either one of you know anyone on the right that wants to write out slavery altogether? You guys are pretty embedded in the right. I know it's a whole bunch of scary people always counting their money and looking for war. Dana, do you know anyone that's been trying to write out slavery?
Democrats, because of their involvement in it. Nobody on the right's done that. I like how she was taking this pot shot at what she thinks that Florida was doing. Let's back up for a minute.
Yeah.
Karol and Dave, I know that you guys both remember, and this was my earliest memory of the demonization, and it didn't come from the right. You guys remember the phrase vast right-wing conspiracy.
Of course.
She literally created that phrase. That's what she called all of the people that were coming after her husband in the wake of Whitewater with the Paula Jones and the Jennifer Flowers and all of this other stuff. Juanita Broaddrick, who's very vocal on X. That's what she called everybody who was criticizing her husband. Then remember, she called the women that had been victimized by her husband, quote unquote, bimbos. Then it went from there. So that is my earliest memory of the demonization that began, and it didn't begin on the right. It's always coming from one way. We disagree, and we might, be upset with someone's facts, but we don't, react the way that the left does. And we don't call people that we disagree with bigots or Hitler or Nazis or diminish anything by adopting it and accusing our opponents of the worst moral failings of the modern era. We don't do that on the right.
One of the things I've been trying to explain to people for the last 2 weeks is to that point that there's a fundamental difference when you call people Nazis and fascists versus when we call them socialists because they call themselves socialists. Bernie calls himself a socialist now. Mamdani calls himself a socialist. It's a fundamentally different piece of the equation that never seems to be lost on these people, or that I guess suppose is always lost on these people. But Karol, if we were trying to really give Hillary every benefit of the doubt there, if we really were trying, is there anything there? Is there anything there that we could go with?
No, other than the fact that she's still licking her wounds, that she'll never be president. Other than the fact that she's completely still lost in that happened to her, there's no excuse whatsoever. I also had the Dana point of vast right-wing conspiracy because that's my first memory of Hillary Clinton on the political scene. And she hasn't improved at all since then. And the slavery comment, that is meant to take a shot at Florida, and it had, obviously nobody was ever writing out slavery out of the history books. This is the kind of lie that they tell the American people that riles up the crazies, that leads to the violence that we see. They need to stop it. And there need to be some grown-ups in that party saying enough of this kind of conversation, enough of this kind of rhetoric. You're getting people hurt because you're lying to the American people.
And to that point, it's a great segue, actually. This is a really crazy thing that happened this week, especially to the backdrop of Charlie. There's a group of young kids, they're Trump supporters basically, that are trying to replicate, it seems like, a bit of what Turning Point was doing on college campuses. They put on MAGA hats and they set up a table. This is kind of like a Steven Crowder thing. And they're there to chat. As far as I can tell, they're there just to chat with some other students. So they went to Tennessee State University. Their group name is Fearless Debates. And, well, take a look.
Hey, you can't, don't do that. Come on. Yo. Oh, you better not, boy. You better not. Okay. You better not.
I think the Fearless tour definitely made an impact.
Okay, so I don't know every one of their beliefs. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that they're not Nazis or bigots or the rest of it, and they were basically just wearing MAGA hats. But I suppose, Dana, just none of this should surprise us anymore. And we know that the reverse never happens, right? A liberal group shows up. Like, imagine if just some lefty group showed up to Liberty University. The kids would walk up. I've been there. The kids would walk up to them. They'd be like, what are you guys doing? Or they're going to class, so they'd probably ignore them altogether. I mean, again, it's this asymmetry thing that just does not work.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. And this is on the heels of these reports that have been released that showed a pretty significant portion of these younger generations, especially on these college campuses, they actually think that violence is an acceptable substitute for dissent if the means justify the ends. That's a really alarming thing, especially all throughout history. All of the worst things began on college campuses, whether it's in communist China, whether it was in Germany, whether it's in Russia. Go back to the college campuses where these worst ideologies are radicalized, and then through that filter, they go out into the streets. And it seems like, that's still happening here, but it's somehow it's accelerated and it's harsher than I've ever seen it. I mean, the fact that from what I saw, they just, as you said, put on a red hat and they sat there. That was the reaction to that. That's rabid. That is a wild, rabid mob. what are they being taught if that's their reaction to a different idea, that they just can't calmly refute it? And that was Charlie's whole point. You know, we were engaging in debate. That's really concerning.
The numbers you're referencing about young people being radicalized, I mean, according to the YouGov poll, that is not particularly favorable to conservatives. It was 25% of young people who identify as very liberal, I mean, basically progressive, think that political violence is excused. So it's like, Karol, if you were one of those kids and somebody shows up in the MAGA hat and you've been taught by your professor at school that means Nazi, and you watched, Gavin Newsom on Colbert 2 days ago call him a fascist and say he's going to cancel the elections, and then Kimmel saying that the killer was MAGA. And we could do this all day long. Mm-hmm. You might do something pretty crazy.
You might. But the thing is that Charlie was the person bridging that. For so long, when conservatives would come onto campus, this would be the response every single time. Every single time they would need full-on security in order to be able to leave peacefully. And Charlie brought the conversation to these students and said, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to the other side. And they killed him anyway. And I know we're not supposed to say they, but it did feel like the left was supportive of that killer. And I don't think there's a real problem in saying that the ideology led to that murder. Charlie was the best of it. And these people don't understand that so many other people will have no time to hear their opinion or no patience for their radicalism or want to talk to them about anything. And it's really unfortunate that this is what college kids have become and that this is acceptable. Their college should expel all of those people.
You know, I'm really glad you said that because I've been thinking about it a lot. I think maybe I said it a couple of days ago on air, but he really was the best of us in this space. He really was doing the thing. It sounds cliche, but like he was doing the thing that everyone says you're supposed to do. And that is why I don't have a problem saying they in this context. Yeah. Listen to this statement about what we just showed you from Tennessee State University. Today, a group of individuals unaffiliated with Tennessee State University appeared on campus without prior notice. In accordance with university policy, any demonstration or protest activity requires advance approval and permitting. Campus police and staff responded promptly, and individuals were escorted from the university grounds without incident. At all times, TSU students conducted themselves in a professional and respectful manner. The safety and well-being of our students, faculty, and staff remains our highest priority. TSU will continue to uphold university policies and ensure that campus remains a safe, welcoming, and orderly environment for all members of our staff, or all members of our community. Look, I'll give the devil his due here. I mean, I do believe campuses have a right to have groups on or not on campus. And if your policy is that you have to get a pass or, you have to fill out some application or something, that is one thing. Dana, I think it's a little odd that they kind of defend the behavior of the students because, I mean, a couple people showed up in red hats and you're literally chasing them off campus and security has to be called. I don't know enough about Tennessee State to say this for sure, but I wonder if a bunch of people in keffiyehs and Palestinian flags were there, if they would have been treated that poorly, let's say, by the student body.
Oh, absolutely not. I think we can say with all certainty, absolutely not.
I'm just trying these days. I'm just trying.
You're trying so hard. God love you, Dave. You're trying so hard. I mean, it's... You're doing hard work there. I will say this. They didn't just defend it. They lied about it. I mean, it's a mostly peaceful protest. Yeah. Oh, they were respectful. They weren't respectful. If I was the university, if I was, the head of the university, I would have said, what is wrong with these students that this is how they reacted to a difference of opinion? Are you so undereducated and are you so without confidence that this is how you comport yourselves? That would have been my response for the university.
So, Karol, is that the point that maybe had the university said just that, like, okay, they shouldn't have been here because we do have an application process and they weren't, granted access or whatever. However, we do expect a little bit more out of our students. But the point is, with all of these institutions at this point, whether it's the Democrat Party or these colleges, the inmates are running the asylum and every adult is afraid to show up.
Right. And the colleges where the adults are not afraid are booming because people have had enough of this. They've had enough of the inmates running the asylum, like you said. These kids were threatening the red hat guy, and they were throwing things at him, and the behavior was absolutely not what the college should expect from their students. So I think these colleges that have allowed this to go on, I think they're going to continue to falter and fail. And the kids who graduate from these places, do you want anybody from this college working for you. At this point, it's not even the people just in the mob. You just have to assume that the rest of the students are equally brainwashed and equally a problem. And you don't want those kind of people working in your office. So I people are talking about cancel culture right now. I'm very happy to find out what people believe and who they support, etc., and to make my decisions based on that.
All right, Dana, I know you have a hard out in 10 minutes, so we're going to do a speed version of the Rubin Report here. I want to show you guys a quick video, and this explains a little bit of inmates running the asylum, that there's no adults left in the Democrat Party. They don't know what to do with the future. They are trying to push Pete out again, our former wonderful transportation secretary. Here he is.
The economy as a whole is getting worse, and most Americans see that and recognize it. And it's showing up in the way that they think and talk about the president. So don't fall for this attempt to make you feel disempowered. Raising our voices makes a difference. It's clearly having an effect, and we've got to keep it up.
Dana, it's just meaningless drivel. I can't find any evidence that the economy's not doing well. I can find a lot of evidence the other way around, but it's just like they're pushing him now because they know he doesn't come off as totally insane.
Right. No, you're completely right about that. And that kind of explains too what you just said. He's not insane, so that's why they're pushing him. He's sort of like the Bill Paxton, Bill Pullman of Democrats, because him and John Ossoff and Beto O'Rourke, they're the same guy.
It's the same.
Like they came from the same place, and they push him out, and he seems like he's very innocuous, but I think that that's kind of like the danger of it, because he's just a vessel for all of these horrible ideas. One of the most underaccomplished people in terms of policy, domestic, et cetera, that I've seen. I mean, he couldn't even get the potholes covered in South Bend. That's why they called him Pothole Pete. He leaves Indiana and goes up north so he can actually kind of vie for a seat. If they really push this guy, especially as like Newsom's second banana going into 2028, I think that that's great for us, because he's such an empty bag. He's just such a completely flavorless chip. I have no idea how else to put it. He offends me because he's so empty.
But he's gay.
Oh my gosh.
He's more masculine than Tim Walz.
Stylist and everything.
Right. They already had one gay guy in Tim Walz. It's like, what do they need with this guy? All right, let's go. Let's talk about Prolon for just a second. And then I want to talk about the other big announcement, which is now we seemingly have a connection between the spike in autism and some of the quote unquote medicine that women have been taking.
We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better, but without a plan, they usually fade. That's where Prolon comes in. Their 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a structured, science-backed approach to stay on track and see real results. In just 5 days, it helps your body burn fat while protecting lean muscle, supports metabolic health, and rejuvenates cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Long work weeks and busy weekends can leave you feeling depleted. Prolon works at the cellular level to reset your body from the inside out, with benefits like sustainable fat loss, improved energy, and a healthier relationship with food. And now they've launched the new next-gen 5-day program. The same proven results in a cleaner, more convenient, and even tastier format, featuring 100% organic soups, teas, snacks, and ready-to-eat meals. It's convenient and it delivers. For a limited time, Prolon's offering listeners 15% off site-wide plus a $40 bonus when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just go to prolonlife.com/Dave. That's PROLON life.com/Dave to claim your discount and your bonus gift. That's prolonlife.com/Dave.
So the other big thing this week, of course, that Trump announced at the memorial was they were going to make a big announcement related to autism and the causes, and then make some new guidelines as it pertains to what women should be doing while pregnant. Here's President Trump.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby. Even if it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you just break it up into, I would say 5, but let's say 4 visits to the doctor instead of 1.
The basic idea that they brought in these, Bobby and Dr. Oz was there and Bhattacharya was there, and I think Marty McCary was there. good people to just warn you something that, can we throw up the tweet? I mean, this is incredible. Look at this tweet that's now just been materialized from 2017 from Tylenol. We actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today. I mean, again, this is good governance, is it? Just think about what you're putting in your body, people.
And then now you have a rash of people out there just chugging Tylenol. I'm pretty sure that the Tide Pod warning was specifically for those people too. So now that makes sense now, going back and looking at it. And they admitted, they're like, yeah, maybe, none of our products are great for if you're pregnant. And then, there's always a tweet, right? And they've said that repeatedly over the years. So I don't know why people are getting so mad at Trump for talking about Tylenol in that context. I know that there were questions. I have a piece up at my Substack about a lot of the studies and things that they were citing, which is kind of different from the specific Tylenol issue. But these were also the people that claimed he said to inject bleach, which he didn't. And now they're out there chugging Tylenol. It's like in protest, like that's a self-own.
Here is I believe it's an 8-second compilation. This is so deeply disturbing and depressing. I don't even know what to do with it, but look at this. Karol, you are a mother of 3. I mean, these are young mothers to be that because Trump said don't do it, they are potentially giving their children autism. I mean, we are just in never land now.
We really are. It's crazy. Don't hate any politician enough that you might want to harm your baby. I think that that's an easy call for most people to make. And yet here we are having to say those words out loud. I don't know that the studies show that Tylenol has direct connection to autism, but there might be other issues anyway. And Tylenol themselves say don't take it when pregnant. So, hey, how about don't take it when pregnant? It's really not that hard. And I think we can see what happens. There's been such a break of public trust, especially with where health agencies are concerned because of the COVID years. I like to see this kind of transparency where people that I trust, Jay Bhattacharya, Marty Makary, they're out there and they're having the conversation and they're showing us the studies and they're telling us what it might mean. Nothing is 100%, but listen, you have to have somebody that you trust, and those are people I trust, and I would follow their direction. You don't have to love Donald Trump. Don't try to hurt your child because he said not to.
And by the way, as opposed to the previous administration, which was literally forcing people to be injected with something that did not do what they claimed it did, or you would potentially lose your job, these are guidelines that they're offering. They're not banning it or anything else. Dana, can you stick with us to do this UN segment, or should I let Karol do the heavy lifting?
No, I can stick with you.
You're going to stick? Okay. All right. Let's talk about crypto.com for just a second, then we'll get to that.
Cryptocurrency is on fire, and here's some huge news. Trump Media has signed a massive $6.4 billion deal with Yorkville Acquisition Corporation and Crypto.com, the platform trusted by millions of users worldwide. Together, they plan to acquire up to $6.4 billion in CRO to launch America's first CRO treasury, the Trump Media Group's CRO strategy. Once completed, this new venture will make Trump Media the largest publicly traded holder of CRO. Ready to be part of the crypto revolution? Head on over to Crypto.com today and join this historic move. Don't wait. For more details on the proposed business combination, see Yorkville Acquisition Corp's public filings.
All right, so the other big story we will finish on this week is that the UN General Assembly, which for those of you that used to watch the Super Friends in the 80s, it's basically like the Legion of Doom on steroids. They gave their usual talks, and it's a bunch of managerial nutbags telling us all how terrible the West is and all that stuff, except for one guy. He happens to be orange. Here he is.
Crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out. The UN also provided food, shelter, transportation, and debit cards to illegal aliens. Can you believe that? On the way to infiltrate our southern border. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them. and not finance them.
Karol, he went on and on. I mean, basically just trashing the UN, going off on the Western leaders, mocking this absurd Australian, British, French recognition of Palestine, which is a state that never existed and still doesn't exist, even if they want to pretend it does. It's just that, to me, it's the best of him. And we should have just leveled that entire building and built a monument to him. Maybe we'll do that one day. But what do you make of Trump versus the world?
I think somebody should plant the idea that there can be a giant Trump monument on that space on the East River. Either that or another beautiful gold Trump Tower on the East River. We spend billions of dollars on this nonsense organization that does nothing but bring harm to the world. Absolutely nothing. So I think that we should pull funding. I know Donald Trump has only been president, under 10 months, if you could believe that. But I think in the next 10 months, he should think about getting rid of the UN, stopping our funding for it, pulling out of it. Once we pull out, it collapses because nobody else really matters other than the United States. And I think that once we do that, it'll be a whole new world. The UN has been nothing but problems for the world. It's been a negative force. He said it best. They support policies that make no sense and make countries worse. It's time to get rid of the UN.
And on top of all of that, they also, I have no doubt it was intentional. They screwed up his teleprompter, which would have knocked any other world leader completely off the podium. Yep. He was able to continue and ad-lib, which was incredible. And when he and the First Lady got on the escalator, it magically broke, which we're going to find out more about because Karoline Leavitt ain't going to stand for it.
UN globalist staffers were basically plotting to set up the president of the United States. And first it was the escalator, then it was the teleprompter, and then Katie Pavlich from Town Hall, who we offered a seat in the press pool to cover the president's historic speech today, noticed that the audio inside of the room was much lower and different for the president of the United States than the previous speaker. So when you put all of this together, it doesn't look like a coincidence to me. And I know that we have people, including the United States Secret Service, who are looking into this to try to get to the bottom of it. And if we find that these were UN staffers who were purposefully trying to literally trip up the president and the First Lady of the United States, well, there better be accountability for those people. And I will personally see to it, Jesse.
Good. Dana, I know it kind of seems like a funny story in a way or silly or whatever. Okay, the prompter didn't work and the, escalator didn't work, but it's not actually. We fund the freaking thing, as Karol just pointed out. It's a deeply corrupt organization and they are quite literally doing everything possible to silence the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, the only guy who matters there. That's who they're going after.
They wanted to humiliate him. Everybody saw the way that escalator stopped. Heaven forbid. Melania Trump could have fallen. The First Lady could have fallen. The president could have fallen. But what's more is the week before, it was widely reported that there were UN staffers that were openly joking about sabotaging Trump's visit, literally exactly as it was just described, with the escalator, with the microphone, with the teleprompter, because once is an incident, twice might be a coincidence, but third is a pattern. So there's really, there's no explaining it. There's really no excuse for it. And especially when they were just so openly joking about it. But I agree. The UN is a long expired vanity exercise for all of these other nations to come on the United States' time and dime and real estate and pretend that they're actually doing anything about world peace, which they're not. It's all the United States that's exercising. And for some reason, we allow, even with the command of NATO, we allow other countries to take command of our resources to play house. And it needs to stop.
With that in mind, I thought we would end this week with a brilliant, it's about a minute long, the great Thomas Sowell on the managerial class who never pay the price for the policies that they institute.
All people owe their lives to the surrounding society, and that they cannot simply demolish it because it is unjust, because everything human has always been unjust. My tendency is to want more freedom for the individual. I don't want people making decisions who don't pay the price of their decisions. And that's what politics is all about. You don't pay the price of the decision. One of the reasons we had a Jim Crow era in this country was because the politicians didn't pay the price of that. That was enormously costly to the white as well as the black population. But the politicians who put that in didn't pay any cost for that. They drew their full salary irrespective of all that. And I want someone who discriminates to have to lose money discriminating, because people tend to back off when they start losing big money. And I think people in the civil rights area have missed a bet by not trying to promote more free markets, because that makes discrimination the most costly it can be.
Well, Karol, to tie this all together, he wasn't talking about the UN, obviously, but it's a perfect descriptor of the UN. A bunch of people who, not on their dime, are making decisions about things that don't affect them in any way while they create a situation that allows the rest of the world to burn.
That's absolutely right. Oh, he's so smart and so well spoken. It just the words that he says. I wish he he could speak more often in public, because
94 years young.
Yeah, we need that wisdom. And he's exactly right. People who are not costing anything to keep us in a bad place, to keep the countries falling apart, are doing their best to continue that path. And people who it matters to need to stop them.
Dana, what is the price that some of these guys are going to have to pay? I mean, some of them will be voted out. Some of them will disappear into the annals of history. Some of them maybe end up in jail. I guess that was the theme today.
I think the greatest thing ever is for Gen X to raise up the next generation of caustic, cynical question askers, and to kind of take them to task through voting and just overtaking the government. So I'm kind of excited to see what Gen Z can do in that regard. So maybe that'll be the payback. That'll be the cost.
Ladies, it was an absolute pleasure. It's just been like another bizarro week. It's not going anywhere, but it was really nice to see both of you. Oh, and I do ask everybody on Friday, what are they doing for the weekend? Karol, what are you doing in the free state of Florida for the weekend?
No, just going to go see Shane Gillis tonight and have dinner with some friends tomorrow night. And that's going to be about it. Hang out with the family.
If I know anything about Dana Loesch, it will involve guns.
I actually did that already. I got an amazing Combat Master from TTI. It's a Gen 5 Glock 17, and it came, my birthday's on Sunday, so it came completely timed perfectly. So I'm going to be back at the range to shoot that some more and figure out the best grain of ammo to run through that, and then have dinner with my friends for my birthday. So
she's my hero. I just want to tell
right.
you.
Dana, next time you are in the Miami area, we're going down to Homestead. Karol and I have been to the gun shops together. She's got quite an arsenal over there. I'm going to take my very, very fancy AR-15, and we're going to do some stuff.
Let's make it happen, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. No post-game show on Fridays. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.